Hi, folks. Hope you're all good. Um, just a quick video about what to do with rich people in an equal society. So, as I've said in other videos, I advocate an equal society where we don't really have rich people or poor people. We also don't have powerful people and powerless people. So, but just to clarify very quickly, though I've said it in other videos, I think we can have people with higher income than others if they work harder and make more sacrifices. But I don't think it's much good if we let them keep large amounts of money, like tens of thousands more than other people, or more than that, because that creates an unequal society, which isn't much fun to live in and makes us all compete against each other and so on. All the things that I hate and I think that make for a bad world and bad decisions going forward. So, it is, however, a problem what to do with the rich people the moment we change to this society, because I think it would be really hard for them to suddenly lose all their money overnight and then have to carry on. So they would actually, in a way, it would be against the principle of equality to do that to them, because they would be psychologically worse off for at least a few years while they adjust to this situation. So I think for that reason, the best thing to do is to let them have a little bit more income for a while they wrap their heads around the fact that they're not better off anymore. They're not going to be better off in a serious way going forward. So, what I was just thinking this morning we could do is we could, on day one, confiscate all the wealth and, let's say, start off a new bank account for each individual which has £10,000 or $10,000 or whatever, that kind of amount of money in it. So everybody be on a level start in that, in the sense of wealth. But I would have a thing where richer people actually get a little an extra sort of bonus on their income and on any unconditional income they get. So I favor a system where we all get an unconditional basic income, which is probably just about enough to live on, but not very comfortably. And then for every hour we work, basically we get an hourly rate on top of that. That would give us a world where most people work, but nobody who doesn't work is dying, basically. So when we move to that system, I suggest that people we measure how much wealth we zap away from people on day one, and the people who've had more wealth will get a bigger bonus. Now that bonus, let's say, might last 3 years, or it might taper off. But as a ballpark figure, let's say at the start, if you had let's say if you had £100,000 in your account at the beginning, then that gets zapped down to 10,000, and you will be given, let's say, a 10% bonus on top of any income or unconditional, any income, conditional or otherwise, that you get. And then we could make it go higher in a kind of logarithmic way. So anyone had 100,000 in their account at the beginning, or including property like houses and stuff, would get, as I said, a 10% increase on any 10% kind of bonus on top of any income they get. And then if someone had £1 million, they'll get a 20% bonus. And then if someone's got 10 million quid getting zapped on day one, they will get a 30% increase on all their income. And let's say 10 million gets you 40%, and so on. And there's not many people with much more than that. So I guess it could keep on going up. So like 100 billionaire gets 60% or 70% or whatever it is. So, and then, as I said, I think that should probably, maybe after 2 years it gets halved or something, and then after 4 years it goes to nothing. That would be a reasonable time frame for people to, as I said, wrap their heads around the fact that they're now living in an equal society, and they're not kind of special anymore, and this stuff they've been working all their lives for is gonna be leveled down to nothing basically. But as I said, they can enjoy that 20% or whatever bonus and feel kind of special for a little bit longer. And well, I would say to those people, like, at least you're not going to be worse off. Though all the people who were worse off, they just got to be worse off for decades, and now they're not. They're not going to be any better off. In fact, you get to be better off for a little bit longer. So you've kind of done all right up to now, and then from now on, you're not going to do any worse. You're not going to be worse than anyone else. So it's really not that bad a life. And also, they might say, "Oh well, I worked hard for this." Yeah, they might have worked hard for it, but also a lot of people worked really hard and didn't get anything. They just worked hard to pay the rent every month, and their jobs were often harder psychologically than the jobs that get paid more. Now, another alternative to that I had already thought of, I might as well share with you now. I think I'd written it on my website, but my first idea was to let people keep their money, but make it basically just a small fraction of their wealth. So what I was thinking is you can keep all your wealth up to a certain point according to this following formula. The formula is, for every hour you've worked in your life, you can keep 50 pence, or it could be 75 pence. Like, the details could be a little bit different, but that I forget what that works out to be. I think it works out to be something of the order of, if you've worked for like 50 years, you get to keep like 100 grand or something. I forget the exact figures. But the rich, so that would mean that the richest people, the people who were like worked all their lives, they just retired, they think they've put together like 500,000 or whatever in the bank, they think they're doing all right. Suddenly they get zapped down to like 80,000 or something. So that's another way to do it. Maybe that's better, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of the wealth is equal, and just income gets a little bit adjusted. That means things are never gonna get really out of whack, or even out of whack to the point of like 80 grand, which is, having 80 grand where other people don't have anything is a pretty big difference, isn't it? So there was that idea. Another option, I guess, is just to level it straight away. But as I said at the very beginning, if you level it completely, you're actually making the best of the people who were rich. You're making them worse off psychologically, so you're actually making it unequal in a way. Because imagine you've been worse off, one of the worst off people, and suddenly you wake up in an equal society. You're going to be elated by that. It's like one of the worst things about your life has just been solved. Whereas these other people have just been rich or just been doing fine, it's going to be like being in the same situation as you is going to be terrible for them. So that's, I guess, the reason. Another way you can look at this is what if, shouldn't we be trying to make lives equal over the whole course of your life? But I just think, I'm not sure that's what I want really, because I do want to have an equal society. So if you want to like equal the whole of people's lives, you're really going to you're making the best of people worst of, and the worst of people best off, like Jesus said in some of his parables. So imagine if this was a world system, like some subsistence farmer from Africa has been like busting their ass their whole life, and they get to like 80 years old, then suddenly zap, we do this equal society. We're gonna have to treat those people like royalty pretty much, to try and give them an equal life overall. And also, some people have been living it rich. I mean, how bad would we have to, if you've like lived if you're kind of like the king of England or someone, I mean, and you're pretty old and you've lived like a royal life your whole life, how badly would we have to treat this person? Like, you have to keep them in like a dungeon or something for their last days. It would create, we'd have to maintain an unequal society from then on. I think that would have some of the problems that we're trying to solve. That would have the problems we're trying to solve, as I said. So it'd be pretty ugly to try and even it over the whole of your life. So, as I said already, I think wiping the slate clean and having an equal society from now on is the right way to do it, but with a couple of years of adjustments so that it really is equal, in the sense that we're cushioning this psychological blow of losing all this money on the part of richer people. So those are my thoughts on what to do with rich people. Feel free to share your thoughts with me or reactions to this. All the best.